Welcome to another edition of Access Higher Ed, the show that focuses on education here in the Berkshires and beyond. I'm your host, Christina Wynn, Director of Marketing and Student Recruitment at Berkshire Community College. And today I'm joined by two of my colleagues from Berkshire Community College, and we're talking about all things career. So I'm going to have my guests introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll get into the really good stuff. So Charles, welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here. My name is Charles Stevens. I'm the Coordinator for Career Planning and Placement at Berkshire Community College.
Great. Welcome.
Awesome. And I'm Erika Allison, and I work for BCC as well. I'm looking after helping their STEM students, science, engineering, technology, and math students with career placement opportunities.
That's great. So you both must be working pretty closely together. And for the benefit of our viewers at home, you're both very new to not only the college, but also the region.
Yeah.
So curious to know what it was that brought you here.
Yeah, I had the fortunate ability to be a trailing spouse. My partner works at Williams College, and just so happens that this opportunity fell into my lap. So I was really excited to get this opportunity. I think it aligns with what I really value in terms of education and helping our students get to where they need to be. And so I'm really excited to be here in the Berkshires.
That's great. And we're excited to have you. Erika, how'd you get here?
I'm thinking there might be a tagline for the Berkshires, trailing spouses come here or something, because I came for the same reason. I actually really love Kripalu, the yoga center, and I had been visiting this area a lot, just hanging out there, and was able to actually find my way here full time. And so now that I'm at BCC, I'm really excited to be working with the students in this area.
That's great, and we love to have the energy and enthusiasm from folks from outside of the region sort of coming in and interacting with us. So I can tell you personally, we're thrilled to be working together. So thank you for being here. Thank you for that. Today we're focusing on careers, though, and you both have kind of, in some ways, you intersect in your work, but you also have very specific kinds of goals. So Charles, when you think about what you do at the college in terms of coordinating and placement, what does that actually mean for a student at Berkshire Community College, and how do you go about helping them?
Yeah, well, I think coordinating and placement and career education and career development are different things in a sense. My philosophy is more so on the career education route. So thinking beyond just coming to school to get a degree and to be placed. More so thinking of yourself and your career as an identity about who you are. So one of those things, from when you were a little kid, I don't know if you can remember the first time you were asked, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, sure I do.
What was it?
A veterinarian.
A veterinarian. So
Dentist.
And then cowboy, right?
Right.
So that's an awesome responsibility that we often place on our youth. And then we expect them from the age of elementary school to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives, when in reality that doesn't reflect our economy. You're going to change jobs very often. So along the way you need to pick up some skills and also grow as an individual and grow into your career professional self. So that's kind of what we hope to do at Berkshire Community College, is help our students and alums start to develop their identity and who they are when they think of themselves in terms of their career.
I like the way you said that, because you're right. So often, particularly when you're a senior in high school, it's where are you going to college, and then where are you getting a job, and kind of like what is the next big thing happening, and it doesn't always look at this more broad spectrum of life and all the things and all the experiences that you've had. So I like what you said there.
Exactly, it's a lifespan approach. You're never going to be stagnant. You should always be moving forward. And then along the way you pick up people, experiences, things, transferable skills that help you to develop your career and help it fit for who you are.
That's great. Thank you for that. Now, Erika, you're working in the career development kind of work as well, but you're coming at it from a STEM side. And we've had a lot of use of the word STEM in the last probably 5 or 10 years, specifically here in Massachusetts. And I don't know that everybody always understands what STEM is, and on the other side of it, why we're putting so much emphasis on it.
Yeah, it's such a buzz right now. So STEM stands for science, engineering, technology, and math, actually in the different order: science, technology, engineering, and math. And what it really is a focused effort to try to help get more people studying and having those skills, because what we're looking at when we look at kind of projections for careers into the future, those are the skill sets that are really going to be essential for all of the next generation of jobs. And so it's really helping students be exposed to those sorts of opportunities and then make sure that they're prepared to know how to fill those. And it's kind of similar to, I like Charles's philosophy about identity. I'm not so interested in locking people in as an engineer or a scientist. It's really about the way of thinking. and the problem solving, the critical thinking, the ability to take a large complex problem and break it down. There's a lot of skills that come from studying STEM that even if you don't go on to be the typical engineer, those skills will actually apply to whatever you go on to do.
So I like what you said there. I think it's fascinating that it is a buzzword and that there is this emphasis on it, and curious as to why you think in the last few years we've really had to make it a buzzword. Like what is happening in the economy? What is happening amongst students, amongst jobs that is requiring this emphasis?
I mean, I can speak for locally. I've been visiting with a few companies in the area as I'm trying to get my feet wet in this new position. And there's demand there. There is demand in our technical companies locally in the Berkshires for skilled workers. And they're not getting the supply needed. There aren't a lot of students who are ready to go into those roles. They don't have the backgrounds needed. And so we're kind of thinking of it as more of a marketing effort. That if we can help people realize how exciting and creative and fun these jobs are that have STEM as part of them, I think we can help more students think of that as a possible career for them. I think there's sometimes stereotypes also about what an engineer does or what a scientist looks like, and really trying to help show that, you know, engineers look like all of us. They look like anybody.
You,
right,
for example,
right?
You are an engineer.
I am a mechanical engineer by background. Yes, I am. And so I always like to, when I talk about engineering, I don't really focus on it being, you know, if you're good at math and science, go into engineering. I really talk about it being creative problem solving, creative thinking.
Great. What do you think it is that is making the STEM field maybe not as popular, so that we have to do this work behind it? Is it that those fields are intimidating to students? What do you think is behind that?
That's a great question. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, actually, Charles. Because I picked STEM, so I don't know. I mean, I thought it was attractive.
I didn't pick STEM for different reasons. I would imagine that, and I'm purely speculating, there's a lot of fear and anxiety around the workload. You know, math is often a subject that I hear a lot of our students try to avoid. A lot of people in general are not confident in their ability to do the work. And plus the workload is really demanding. You're spending a lot of time, a lot of hours dedicating your time to your craft. And so it may seem intimidating, but with the right work ethic and some help along the way, some good resources that support you, the field is more open to a lot more people than they may actually think.
And exposing students earlier in their lives to these kinds of fields maybe will help them feel like, well, maybe one day I could be in that seat doing that same kind of work, and it's not as far-fetched as maybe I would have thought initially.
And I do just want to add, it's not that we have less people studying STEM than we have in the past.
Sure.
It's that now there are more opportunities.
Right.
More companies are popping up that need that kind of skill set. So it's not like we have less people going in, it's just now we need more people going in.
Sure.
And so it's helping to expand how many people even consider that as part of their identity.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when you're faced with a student, they come to you and they sort of say to you, particularly in your case, I'm going to college, I'm studying something general, maybe at Berkshire Community College they're studying something like liberal arts, which is a very broad program of study. You can test out lots of different courses and classes and find what speaks to you, but are kind of nervous because they don't have necessarily a career that they identify with, and they're getting those questions from folks at home and folks in their lives in terms of, what are you going to do next? What do you say to those people? Because they must be coming at you in full effect and probably pretty anxious in some cases.
Yes, I mean, you hear that a lot. I think it's necessary to shift the way that our parents. I guess the story for our parents was, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job. That's not necessarily the case anymore. So you have to figure out what opportunities are available to you, and then also try to develop your own portfolio. So develop skill sets, develop a cabinet of support. Try to figure out ways that you can sell your skills and develop which skills are marketable, and work on accomplishing goals and projects in the sense, and selling yourself and selling your skills and traits in that manner, instead of focusing on a career or a career path. You want to make sure that there's a congruence between your values and then also your skill sets and your abilities, and then try to grow your network through that way. So it's just a little bit of a shift from A plus B equals C. It's more of a non-linear approach to career, focusing on what you can bring to the table and how you can help out others.
That's great.
Thanks for using that STEM analogy there. That was good. That was good.
So you talked about skills and bringing and kind of bringing your skills to the table. I guess my question would be, what if you're a student and you're thinking, I don't have any skills, or I don't know what my skills are? How do you deal with something like that? Because clearly, you know, the mindset, I think for all of us here, is that everybody has a skill in something. So how do you identify that? How do you pull that out?
I think that's where a conversation would have to happen. There are things that you learn for our students. There are things that they learn in the classroom that will turn into skills. There's also things they will learn outside of the classroom, so leadership opportunities, for instance. I know when I worked in business before I came in, worked in did the corporate America thing as well, but more so in the financial sector. The answers to my behavioral questions in the interview came more so from my leadership experience, my involvement with clubs, having to run a board, and run meetings and things like that, rather than stuff that I encountered in the classroom. Sure, the classroom gives you the technical background. It tells employers that I'm trainable. I have an understanding of the formulas, or I have the understanding of tools that they use, and then they can train me further on how to use their own. But really those intangibles, because IBM calls it making yours a T-shaped individual, where you have the content knowledge is the I, your actual classroom setting, background, cognitive knowledge, versus the interpersonal knowledge, which makes you a more well-rounded individual, where the T comes in. So focusing on those skills, I think, and you could accumulate those inside and outside of the classroom with experiential learning, different opportunities. Those would be those skills that you would sell to employers.
That's great.
I'd love to add to that.
Absolutely.
There's a researcher, Carol Dweck, who has a book called Mindset. And I think it's so important because there's this idea of a fixed mindset. And if students think that I'm born with all the skills I have for my lifetime, and you know, if I'm good at something, I'm good at it, and if I'm not, I shouldn't try it. The growth mindset philosophy is more that, well, you actually have to practice those things. You have to attempt it, you have to try it, you have to work on something. We don't get born with everything we have for our lifetime. So I think just keeping in mind that even if you don't, you know, all skills can be developed, basically. That students shouldn't limit themselves in thinking that, oh, I'm not naturally good at something.
Right.
But to really be open to exploring what do they enjoy and what do they like, and then can they build that?
Yeah.
And sometimes those opportunities, I think, when you see someone who maybe felt like that they weren't great in math, or they weren't, maybe they didn't have a mind for science, actually overcome that. And then you shared before we went on air that you had some students who actually, that you taught in high school, who didn't maybe see themselves going into STEM fields, that actually went to college to major in those fields. And what a shift, right?
Absolutely.
For the student and for you, that must be a great feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I really believe that anybody who wants to, if they put the effort in, can do it. It's really just finding the thing that lights you up inside. I mean, that's going to be your motivation. If you're looking for motivation from the outside to do something, you're probably not going to really stick with it. But if you feel it and you're motivated inwardly, then, you know, pretty unstoppable.
I love the way you said that. So when I think about the STEM program that we have at Berkshire Community College, it's pretty unique to some of the other programs of study that we do just in general. So I wondered if you could talk just about the STEM program that is unique to the college.
Yeah, so I think, BCC offers several different options that are considered STEM, and it's a pretty broad set of things you can pick. You can really focus on engineering and engineering technology, and we do have a pretty good program in those fields. And I will say, from the career side of things, there are lots of great opportunities when you leave that program to step into employers right here in the local area and get work. But things like the biological sciences, if you love how weather works, if you love how animals behave and operate, like there really are ways that you can find your niche of science, and BCC has done a great job of creating a portfolio of programs that can support all of those things, from physics to chemistry to biology and all the different programs like that.
That's great, and there's supports built around not just the classroom side of things, but also some additional supports for the student.
Yes, we have a program right now called the STEM Starter Academy. And it's a grant-funded program, but what it does is it takes any student studying one of those fields and brings them into a special cohort where they get a little extra attention, a little extra guidance, a little extra hand-holding, a little bit of extra like access to me and other things that help them really think through, what do I like, what might I want to do with this, how can I use these things that I'm learning.
That's great.
And on a personal note, I participated in such program when I was in undergrad. And
Really?
Yeah, but it was more so for business majors.
Yep.
The connections that you develop, the cohort model is really important because some people view the peers as competition, but in reality, when you bring in a cohort of colleagues or new students like yourself, you develop that network. Eventually, when you go into the job force, those people will be in positions to help you,
Right.
to be a part of your what I like to call your cabinet, your
Be
presidential
your network.
cabinet, of support who will help you through maybe tough times or even be on the other side of that hiring desk and give you an opportunity
That's
down
right.
the road.
Leveraging your shared experiences.
Exactly.
Totally.
Great. So at Berkshire Community College, we have a couple of career-focused events that are coming up in the next couple of months, and wondered if you could share with viewers just a little bit about those.
Yes. So we have the One Berkshire Career Fair, which we're really excited about. We're partnering with One Berkshire, and it's going to be in March 29th from 10 to 4. If you're an employer, you'd like to get registered, please contact them. There's still spots available. But this is open to the community, but also to our students. And in the meantime, we'll be putting on different forums like resume workshops. We're going to do an employer networking panel. So a program called Networking Made Simple, a way for students to come out and learn about the tools and tricks of networking and what that means and how to work a career fair. So we're going to be doing that closer to the end, closer to the Wednesday that it's going to happen, so on that Monday, the 27th. And then we're also going to do different resume workshops and things of that nature to try to get our students ready in the mindset of working with a career fair.
That's great. Yeah, I want to mention that One Berkshire has done that career fair for a number of years here in our region. It's the first year that they have partnered with Berkshire Community College and are holding it right on our campus. So you're right, it will be a huge benefit for BCC students, but also the community to come and see some of the great things. Not to plug our next show with Ellen Kennedy, but we're going to talk a little bit about the facilities and some of the great things that have been happening at the college that the community really must come see. But on the career fair side, you said something that I thought was interesting, kind of this skill set of networking, because in your mind you think to yourself, it's a career fair, I'm just going to go and I'm going to walk in and it's going to be fine. And then there are those moments, right, where you walk in and you think, oh no, what do I do? And you have that moment of panic, like, do I walk up to this table and introduce myself? Do I just slide a resume across the table? So it's so important to have these kinds of things that you maybe didn't know you needed until you arrive there and you think, oh shoot, I should have prepared.
Yeah. You got to think of it as a process. You never want to try to leverage a resource without making that relationship flourish first. So developing relationships is really important in your career. Like I said, developing that cabinet is paramount. Figuring out who can help you out, but also more importantly, particularly if you're starting out your career, how can you help others? That a lot of times, it may require you to do something for free, but that altruistic help for someone may reflect positively on you in the future when they think about an opportunity that may pay down the road. And so when you think of networking, it's not necessarily an underhanded quid pro quo, tit for tat type of business, but it's more so relationship building and figuring out what relationships can help you and how can you help others in your relationship. So maximizing the potential of the group that you're a part of.
So being top of mind amongst the folks that maybe are in circles of influence or could along the way help you, but also you reciprocate if the opportunity in a very genuine way.
Yeah, and then I would say in reverse, so you helping first, and then eventually the fruits will come back to bear.
That's great.
So,
thank you.
yeah.
The top of mind, though, is important. I think when we think about the career fair, that's one of the strategies I love to share with students is really thinking through before it begins. What can I do when I walk up to that table? There's going to be 50, 100 people that are all going to be walking up to that same table talking to that same person. What can I do to kind of make sure that I'm memorable, that I'm top of mind, and really kind of preparing that in advance? What's going to be my vibe? What's going to be my pickup line, if you want to think of it like that? Like, what am I going to say to these people? And sometimes it means doing a little bit of research about the companies that are going to be there and what might be a good thing to say to them when I walk up to the table, or a question that I could ask that will stick in their mind as, wow, that person's on it. So I just like to give that advice to people who are preparing for the career fair. It isn't, you can get a lot more out of it if you put a little bit into it before you just walk in.
Like so many things in life, right?
So many things in life.
I love that you said that, because to turn our attention a little bit to like a general career search. So we have students at BCC who are just graduating, maybe are out of high school, going to go on and get a job, first time in the workforce. But we also have students who have maybe been in the workforce, come back to be retrained, and are going out again. And how do you address those differences in need? And when you think about a career search, what are the things that you really need to keep top of mind as you're going to career fairs, but also you're applying at home, you're sending out resumes, you're talking to people? What are some tips that you would suggest?
I think Erika touched on it, and it's really important that you start with research. Research encompasses not only the company, but more so yourself, because when you're in the interview, they're going to be asking a lot of questions about you, but that's also your time to understand what their culture's like. So the best piece of advice I learned about interviewing was you kind of view the opportunity as if you were a consultant. So you think about whether or not that company aligns with your values, but also whether or not they're trying to figure out whether or not you fit into that company as well. But before you even get to that point, you need to start off with research. So self-discovery, figuring out what your do's and don'ts, things that you just won't put up with. What are some things you're looking for as far as a company, and how it carries its business. And then also, what skills do you actually bring to the table? But then also, what does the market bear? So if you have the expectation of making $70,000 in social sciences, you need to do a little bit more research. But if you start off with doing that research in the front end, it'll save you a lot of confusion and revisiting the same point in the future of trying to figure out what is it that I want to do, who do I want to be.
Yeah, and I would just add, I've sat on the other side of that table where I've interviewed a lot of people, and the thing that really sticks out in my mind is if they can articulate to me why they're excited about this opportunity. So I would just advise anybody to really, if you're about to go into an interview or even submit your resume to somebody and write a cover letter, think through what makes me excited about this, why would I want to be here, and find a way to communicate that to them, because that enthusiasm tends to be the thing that remains when all the words have gone away. I still remember, wow, that person was really enthusiastic and they want to be here, so I want somebody who wants to be here.
Right.
And so if you can communicate that, it tends to give you a leg up when you're...
That's a good point. I mean, if you're looking at 5 or 10 people who on paper, right, look just about the same and their criteria are about the same, but you have another one who is really excited to work for a particular company and maybe share their passions, that is far more engaging and maybe will move on to other employees, and it'll be contagious to some extent, right, in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, sitting on the opposite side, a lot of the times people are saying the same thing. Right. Particularly when you graduate, you have a program that churns out different experiences, but a lot of times you don't necessarily remember what they say, but you remember how it made you feel.
Yes.
Maya Angelou.
Exactly. So definitely developing, and I like to say, developing a work-life integration is most important. So, the old way was thinking of work-life balance, right? So you had to take time off on work, but then also spend time with family. But figuring out how do you navigate the two, because your social media life isn't separate, your career isn't separate, your family, you need to navigate all those different things. So figuring out what works for you, what are some things you will or will not put up with, what are some expectations and boundaries around your family, and things like that. So you have to navigate that, and I think that takes a lot of self-discovery.
Yeah.
A lot of people are impatient to think about and neglect to think about that self-discovery piece, the values, what's most important to them. And then it shows in the interview when they're not as passionate about the topic, or maybe not as passionate about the company or what they're going into. They're doing it for maybe the wrong reasons.
Right. That's a good point.
The good news is we learn that along the way too. I think when we think back to our first job, when I think back to my first job, I didn't know exactly like this is the exact integration that I want to have in my life. It's kind of like as I went in, I kind of treated it as an experiment. I'm learning, I'm growing, and wow, that doesn't feel great to me. So maybe I want to rearrange my work-life integration so that I have a little bit more here and don't sacrifice as much here. And I learned those things as I went along, also.
Great. Thank you. With just a couple of minutes left, I'm going to ask you something that we didn't talk about before. So putting you guys on the spot.
Okay.
So if you had one piece of advice to give to somebody who had, they landed the interview and they're going in, right? What is the one piece of advice that you would give to them as the most important thing that they should be thinking about or that they should do? Stunned to silence.
Are we going to cue the music in the background, like the angelic, like, as we give our guide our
We don't
wisdom,
have that kind of talent right here. I didn't build that in. Sorry, folks.
I think I just re-emphasizing, if I had more time, I'd come up with something more profound.
Of course you would. Right, of course.
But just re-emphasizing my earlier statement of going into it as if you were a consultant. I think that puts a little bit of the onus on the employer to demonstrate why their company is a great place for you to work. I know it helped me in interviews. Now, I don't go in pointing out, oh, this is bad, you need to fix this. But take mental notes and you learn about the culture.
Sure.
And so I think that's one thing you should really look into.
Yeah, and for me, really, I can't say more about the kind of that little bit of spark of excitement.
Sure.
And if you can find a way to connect, if you can find why you're excited about working here and can kind of connect it to your own strengths or skill sets. Like an example might be, oh, I really like that you guys are in the field where you're trying to get more women into engineering. I'm a woman engineer, and that's been my passion my whole life, and so I want to help support you guys in this effort. That makes me excited. I would love to spend my days doing that because it matches with my mission. So finding a way to package that your excitement matches with your skills and you can communicate that.
Great. Well, thank you both for being our guests today on another episode of Access Higher Ed. If you want more information about career development at Berkshire Community College, you can visit www.berkshirecc.edu. Thanks for joining us.